Ben, hi, how did the comedy rumble go?
Oh my God, Cabanks, it was so great.
Tell me
But
everything.
I have to tell you something. I have a confession. I kind of,
Okay.
I kind of accidentally fell in love with Jay Theano.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me tell you about it. But also maybe while I'm telling you about that, I can kind of introduce you to the audience. Everybody, this is my friend Cabanks. Cabanks is a comedian from Las Vegas, who is also a rabid. Would it be accurate to describe you as a rabid Sister Wives fan?
I think it would be more classified as clinically sick, foaming at the mouth, all the way, no vaccines, obsessed, rabid.
Perfect. This is perfect because we're going to actually talk about Sister Wives in this episode. We're going to talk about episode
Oh
one
yeah.
because
Yeah.
you are actually solving a real problem for me, which is that everyone wants me to talk about Sister Wives.
Mhm.
And because I'm funny and I'm smart and I've healed so much and I'm so brave and everyone loves me. And I am just so done. I'm so sick of talking about Sister Wives by myself. But you are not done with Sister Wives. You are insatiably curious about Sister Wives. And that actually gives me a lot of energy because if there's one thing that I like, having grown up on a compound with 16 siblings, I really like attention.
You like the
So
cool sister. Yeah,
I
duh.
100% like if you'll pay attention and you'll ask me questions, I will talk your ear out about that. But before we can talk about Sister Wives, we actually have to talk a little bit about how we met, which involves this comedy rumble thing that we were talking about at the beginning, and actually involves a guy named Jay Theano.
Yes. Because why else do you think I decided to go to Utah? Like, okay, sure, yeah, there's a Wiseguys. Sure, yeah, there's the Booker there. Okay, yeah, yeah, sure. But like ultimately, I got to go on the biggest Mormon like learning experience.
Yeah, we call those a reverse mission. Like you came to
Reverse
Utah
mission.
and we are going to convert you. But fortunately, you met me, and I was able to warn you off. I was able to be like, "No, Cabanks, do
Yeah.
not become a sixth wife." But you were thinking about it. You
I
were
would
like,
honestly, it took me a long time to understand why women go polygamy route. And then once I truly start to like listen to the essence of like what they're trying to build, I'm like, oh, you ladies are geniuses.
"That is wild for
Um,
me to hear," because on from the inside, it doesn't. I got to be real. From the inside, it doesn't look like any of them are geniuses. I don't know that is how I would describe. Like to me, like genius is like Mozart, or like we created something cool,
Martha Stewart. Yeah.
right? And they made, I don't know, like the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, but they didn't even. They made like they made like a couple of houses on the side of the freeway that aren't finished. Like,
And some like B-level singers. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. Anyway, so you come up to Salt Lake, you get invited up to do a roast of Jay Thaniano, who's a comedian up here. And I was also invited to do the same roast. And we met at that. Jay actually very generously took a whole group of comics out to dinner, and I think we went to the Green Iguana or
The
something,
red one. Yeah.
Red Iguana, and there was like a black van, like there was like a van, or we got chauffeured. It was
It
very
was like
fancy.
a land yacht, but I know that you don't know that.
Wait, what is that?
A land yacht.
Yeah.
It's like a suited and booted party bus, but just slightly larger than a short bus.
Okay, so but why would you want a party bus? Obviously to have a bigger party, but is there so what would be a party bus that's short?
So yeah, that's what the land yacht is.
Oh,
Yeah.
a land yacht. Oh, like a
Mhm.
boat. Okay, land
Right.
yacht.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So you
Oh,
have
that
your
makes sense.
standard minivan, you have your short bus, you have your school bus, and then you have like that weird in between that's the
Oh,
land yacht, and then you
okay.
have the like big like 18 wheeler that's a party bus, and then you also have like the touring buses that are like you sleep in.
Whoa. We called those pligmobiles where I came from.
Okay, Oh my God, I guess when you have 18
And
kids, you do have
there
to.
was so much partying in there. You would not believe the hymns that we sung to Jesus and how just aggressively we like swallowed our boners.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I guess you do need a school bus for just like one family. Just get
Oh,
in. I have a type C license. Yeah.
100%. I remember when my family graduated to two vehicles. Like there came a moment in my family's growth trajectory where we had an 18 passenger van, but because we had 16 kids and three adults, that didn't fit everyone.
Who was in
So
the trunk?
no, I think usually we just forgot someone. No, what we would do, because especially when it got to that size, you couldn't pack. So if we were going on a trip, you couldn't pack everything in there. So we'd have to take two cars. So the back part of the van would be full of all the stuff. And then, in fact, one time, this will blow your mind, Cabanks. One time,
Okay.
the only like family vacation that I can remember, was we went in like 1997 or something, maybe in the early 2000s. We went
Okay.
to Nauvoo, Illinois, to because the LDS church, which is a different version of the Mormon cult than it's the less cool one, but the more popular one. Uh
Right. They don't have special underwear, but like have big feelings about soda.
yes, big well, they do have special underwear, but it's smaller. It's more sexy.
Ooh, sexy
Yeah.
special underwear.
Yes, and by more sexy, I mean like a t-shirt.
Yeah, versus the whole
Yeah,
like super
and
big.
like some really gross, some just really gross like boxer briefs.
Wild.
boxer briefs for Jesus. Anyway, now back to the original conversation.
We just had to cover our baselines of transportation.
That we assume, ladies and gentlemen, we assume that that will be a frequent part of this, whatever this is, this YouTube channel, this podcast, this discussion, ongoing as we eventually talk about all the sister wives. Is that Banks is also going to be filling me in
From
on
your
stuff.
vocabulary.
So
Yep.
every once in a while, we will have to pause, and I'll have to learn what a land yacht is, and then realize that I already knew what that was.
Yeah. Do you remember what G stands for? It stands
G
for Guido.
I do. And I know what a Guido is. A Guido is not a Hispanic.
It's not this way.
Not Hispanic. A
You're doing
Guido
so good.
is Italian, but not
Yes.
really Italian, like not from Italy, like in Italy, Italian American living in Jersey who has
East Coast
like,
Italian.
yeah, kind of
Yeah.
like shrugged shoulders and like kind of greasy tank top and slick back hair.
But that's sexy. Yeah.
Super sexy. Yeah. I
So
mean, because they
sexy.
just raw animal magnetism.
Yeah. Yeah. They
Just
literally
Guido
stole all
energy
the
just oozing.
Disney.
He just sweats sex.
They're pissing Justin Timberlake off so much because he thought he brought sexy back, but it's never left because it's all in New Jersey.
All the sexiness is in New Jersey. I don't know much
Staten
about
Island,
New
excuse me.
Jersey, but I don't know if that's true or not. That feels like you might be pulling my leg. Anyway, we meet on the party, on the not party bus, on the comedy bus. We get talking just like this. You find out that I'm polygamist. You're thrilled. I'm thrilled because finally someone is talking to me. And
It's so wholesome.
it's so wholesome. I just want people to talk to. Um, and we end up going to the roast. The roast was to put it like candidly, but also diplomatically, perhaps not up to your expectations of the roast. You were perhaps maybe a little disappointed in how the roast
It
turned out.
wasn't even it wasn't even disappointed. Like I know what to expect out of a bar show. It was a lot larger with a smaller production than I thought. So that's all.
Yeah, got it. Yes. And I remember that night kind of watching. So we go to the bar show. It's a roast, but it's a bar show. And so there's just like it's a little smaller than I think we were kind of like. And what I remember too about that night is more the level of preparation. Like the rest of us showed up and we were like, this is a bar show. We're doing bar show stuff. And you showed up and you kicked ass. And you kicked ass because you were like super prepared. And I like to collect people who are clever people. And so I immediately was like, oh my gosh, this Cabanks person, we should definitely work together. So we exchanged numbers. You helped me workshop a couple of bits. Um,
Uh-huh.
we were just kind of like talking, kind of waiting for an opportunity. And then I invited you up, or I can't remember if I think I reached out to you and I was like, hey, do you want to come do a night break show? I started like these pop up shows in my neighborhood. And I was like, hey, do you want to come do like get on a spot? I offered you a spot or something. And you were
Yeah, you were bugging me a lot to get up
I was
to
like,
Utah, and I
he's like,
was
get up.
like, I just am brand new to comedy. Can I like make a profit so I can afford like a plane ticket first?
Right.
And you're like, how's tomorrow? How's tomorrow?
And I was like, I will pay you. And what I love too is, and this is one of the things I actually love about you is that whenever you show up to something, you show up like 110%. So like I'm like, hey, you should come do a show, like come get on a spot. And you're like, I hear that you're offering me a spot, but why don't I just do the whole show? Like, why don't I bring up two comics? We'll do a Vegas night. It'll be super fun. And I love that. I was like, that's great. I actually pitched that to a business up here. They paid, they sponsored it. So it was like this really awesome night. Like 80 people came. You crushed it. The two people that you brought up crushed it. One of my favorite things, I can't remember if this is how I remember it, but I'm wondering if this is actually what you said. But I remember you coming off the stage and coming up to me and saying, that was the first time I've ever done 25 minutes. And you were like
Yeah,
cackling. And
yeah,
I loved that so much because again, that's just kind of like who you are is like, I'm gonna step into the biggest space that I possibly can, and then I'm gonna show the fuck up. So
yeah.
I have been thrilled to be your friend, and we actually just started to work together in because I've got these Rumble shows going for full circle. Jay Theano, the guy that brought us together, he was on the last Comedy Rumble 8 up here in Salt Lake. And
Please tell me
he,
everything I want to know.
oh my God, it was so he is, he is, he's such a flamboyant character. And I don't mean flamboyant and like,
He's not overly showy. He's very subdued, but he is, yeah, a
takes
flamboyant
up
is
a
a
lot of
perfect word.
space, right? He's
It's a
got,
lot.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
he comes in and he's got an entourage.
Uh,
So we're putting eight
I'm so
comics
jealous already.
we're putting there are eight comics going up, right? Because it's the eight, 1v1. And and everyone else is kind of hanging back in the gray room where you were. And then he comes in and it's like him and then this guy behind him pulling a briefcase and then a girl holding what looked like folders. So he's been followed in by people, and I kind of like give a briefing. I'm sort of like in and up, so I don't really know. I'm like, that's kind of
Yeah,
actually I see that, and I'm just like, oh, that is so Jay. That's so Jay.
that is so Jay.
It's so Jay, and which is why I kind of fell in love with him that night. Is Jay showed up, and the whole night he was just Jay, and I had a lot of fun watching Jay be Jay. It was kind of fun. Um, but he
When
shows
they
up
say build a team, he comes with it already installed.
100%. And so he goes up and on his first round, he comes up in costume. He comes up as he has like a leather jacket on. It looks like a flight jacket. And it has a
Oh, ooh.
name on it, and it said the name is Maverick. So I think he was like a fighter pilot or something.
I think it's Top Gun. Yeah.
Top Gun is a movie.
Yeah. It's a movie.
Okay. So
Tom Cruise.
he came as
Yeah. It
Top
was
Gun.
the thing. Yeah.
So he came as
It's
a
a thing. It's totally cool.
he came as Top Gun, and he did his bit. And at the end of it, he reaches into his pants behind, and and struggles for like 10 seconds to pull out a lightsaber, like a red Darth Vader lightsaber. And then he obviously does the only joke that you would do on stage with a lightsaber.
Listen, I love red lipstick as much as the next guy, but oh my God, a
Yeah.
lightsaber? That's
Yeah.
so impressive.
So impressive. And the audience, what's weird about Jay and the way what happened all night is he wouldn't get a lot of laughs, but everyone was really interested in seeing what he would do. And so if I were to like coach him a little bit, I would say he's really good at like grabbing people's attention. And all
Mhm.
he needs to work on is listening to them to hear what parts of what he's saying are funny. Because he's
Yeah.
really good at like he gets up there and he's there, right? And a
Mhm.
lot of people they can't
He has
even
a
do
good like, radio voice.
he's
Yeah.
got a good radio, like he's got a good voice. He's got a commanding presence. He pulls lightsabers out of his pants. So I mean, he's not afraid to go for it.
Yeah.
And and it worked. He got through to the next round. And then so the as you know, round one is 1 minute of brand new material. So he did 1 minute of brand new material. I think I'm trying to remember who went up against him, but I can't. But whoever it was, they're gone. Jay Theano is going through. And
Mhm.
I thought for sure that was where it was going to end, and it did not. Because in round two, he came back and he had 3 minutes. So he had 3 minutes
Okay.
in round two, and he went up against another guy, and he had a costume change. Because remember the suitcase that
Yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah,
so
his
we got the
friend was
suitcase covered, we got the pants covered. I can't wait to hear about these folders though.
yeah, I actually the full well, I don't remember what happened with the folders. It may have been a notebook that she looked like a secretary, perhaps. That's like where
Maybe it's like all the sets that he had ready
yeah,
and
like
just
all the sets that
oh,
he
pull the fucking nine iron. Yeah.
right, exactly. He doesn't write anything himself. She follows behind him and
Yeah.
writes it down.
He has
Um,
a comedy caddy.
a comedy caddy. Oh my God. And if anyone were gonna have a comedy caddy, it would be Jay.
It's Jay. Yeah,
He does
it's Jay.
he does comedy and golf. He does comedians and golf. uh,
Listen, it's really impressive. Like, I wish I had that many friends like that ready to go for.
he brought and so that's the thing too is that and this is where the thing that I appreciate about any comic that comes on the Rumble, there's sort of two parts to it, right? Is one is I want you to show up and I want you to do your best, right? That's the first thing. And then the other thing that I care about is did you bring people?
Mhm.
Because the game that we're playing is we're all going to bring people together so that we all can practice together, right? That's the game. And Jay did both of those things. Like he brought himself, and even
Yeah.
though he wasn't the funniest, he never wilted. Like he never didn't do the thing, and I loved him for that. So even though for a while he was up there eating shit, and it sucks to eat shit,
It
right? It
really
sucks
does.
when you're talking and nothing's happening, and you just I've done that. We have all done that on stage, and it is the worst.
Yeah.
And because eventually into round five, he started telling dating after divorce stories, and
Mhm.
they were wild, some of them. But also I think they were a little uh he hadn't quite found the funny parts of them yet, right? So he
Yeah.
was just kind of telling what happened, but it wasn't in a way that sort of everyone could get on board with and then find funny. It was more of in a way like if you just like if I described the last 5 dates that I went on just line by line,
Yeah.
that
Just a
wouldn't
little
be
bit
funny.
too factual.
Yeah, it's a little too factual, you know. Um, but he had two costume changes because in round three or in round two, 3 minutes, he wins again. And I'm like, oh my God, he's doing it. Like he's doing the
I
thing.
love the comedy rumble because it's never the ones you think it's gonna be.
It's never the ones you think it's
It's
gonna be.
never the ones you think it's gonna
It's
be.
never the one I would not have. And then in so then there's two of them left. It's him and Nick Lucero, the guy who wins, and they both
Oh,
do 5 minutes. And Jay does 5 minutes. And at the end of that, he almost wins. Like
okay.
he gets. So I had to have him cheer twice to get it.
Ooh,
Yeah, to make a decision. And the second
bring
time
out the little decibel thing.
I didn't bring out the decibel thing. No, because I did the decibel thing last time when Becca won and it didn't work because they both got 102.
If
Uh,
you could just like book people who are not as funny, that would be so much easier,
I
right?
know if we could just make the comedy rumble a little shittier,
Yeah.
then we wouldn't have the problem of picking who's going through. So
Yeah. Yeah. Just
anyway,
get it.
that's everyone. That's Kabanks. That's the story of how. That's the story of the beginning of our beautiful friendship.
No,
And
it's been so fun. I feel like I've known you for like years already, and I'm just like, oh, just since February. Got it.
totally, yeah. I mean, we
Yeah.
that's because we've spent a lot of time together. Like we've been busting our ass.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk with you about. So thanks everyone who stuck through all of that. The reason that we're doing this episode and future episodes too is that I demand actually to use my trauma from polygamy to make me money now. So that is a demand that I've made on the universe. And I don't necessarily know that I want to make money on YouTube, but I do want to make money by you guys coming to my shows. So if you're in Nevada and you're a Sister Wives fan and you've made it this far, November 2nd, which is tomorrow when we're recording this, Saturday, November 2nd, and then Saturday, November, what is it, 15th, 16th?
16. Yeah.
November 16th, and then Saturday, November 30th, Cabanks and I will be hosting 3 comedy rumbles in Las Vegas. And these shows are wicked cool. We take,
Yeah.
like you've been hearing in the discussion, we take 8 comics. They compete against each other for stage time. So the audience votes who gets more time and who doesn't get more time. We've done 8 shows up here in Salt Lake. 6 of them have sold out. And we fully anticipate that we're going to be selling these shows out real quick. So if you're looking for something to do on this chill Halloween, sit in your pajamas weekend, you should definitely come out and I might even do some Sister Wives jokes. But let's actually talk about Sister Wives a little bit. So Cabanks, I'm going to surrender to you now. You're gonna lead this part of our conversation.
Okay. So I just need to tell a little bit of background of like why I love Sister Wives so much is just because like I grew up in a household where it was just like me and my brother were always in sports. We were always out of the house. Like we always had that like family unit and like we're very close with our parents, but like we were never all four in the same room at one time, like so much,
Oh,
right?
okay. Hmm.
Yeah, and then so when I started watching Sister Wives, I immediately like latched on because I was like, wow, this is the polar opposite of everything that I've come about. And then so I remember just seeing like up in like even Portland, Oregon, like, Mennonites and like different other religions that are just kind of like popping up. And I'm so infatuated because I was so angry at religion for the longest time in like my middle school and high school years. And obviously now I've found spirituality and I've understood like a whole different level of peace on my own. Um, so even though I'm not tied to one religion, I find it very influential to study all of them, figure
Totally.
out all of their strengths, kind of ragdoll myself back together with it, right?
Yeah,
And then
I love that image of like
yeah,
because basically like grabbing pieces from a bunch of
yeah,
different things that work and kind of like constructing a little
yeah,
ragdoll religion.
yeah, it's fun. And then you just call it spirituality and you just
Oh my God.
go.
Okay, ragdoll religion, that should be a bit.
Writing that down. Got it. And then yeah, so then it's always been like really, really great. But then I specifically remember when Sister Wives came out because it was such a stark understanding of just like who the fuck would sign up for this?
Yeah, that's I think a lot of people's responses is like, what the hell?
Yeah, yeah. And I remember going to like a couple of the pageants that my friends invited to, like at Temple, like in at the Mormon Temple in Oakland, right? And like I remember like having some interactions because like there was a good corner of my high school that was like, we called them the Sunday Mormons and then the real Mormons.
Where did you grow up in Vegas or did you grow up somewhere else?
No, I grew up in Concord, like it's the like suburbs of Berkeley, if you will. So
And
like
Berkeley's California. It's by LA?
kind of up by like San Francisco, and then you just
Oh, okay.
go.
Oh, yeah. So you're back.
Mhm.
You're back home. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Got it. Yeah. So okay. So and there is kind of like a pretty strong Mormon population in California. So you were kind of aware of Mormons. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and it was fun to get to know them because you're just like, okay, those are the strict ones who like only play volleyball and then they go right home. And then, oh, those are the ones who can drink soda. Oh, and that's the one that like we can hang out with, you know?
I was one that, so I, growing up, I could drink some soda, but not caffeinated soda. So I could drink like root
Oh,
beer or I could drink like Sprite, but I couldn't drink like Coke or Pepsi
oh,
or Bang's root beer because it had caffeine.
oh,
Yeah. I
interesting.
remember I remember one time sneaking so we were at like a family reunion or something and I really liked root beer and I
Yeah,
remember getting a root beer but it was a I think it was Bragg's or Bang. I don't remember the brand but it was a caffeinated root beer and I knew that cuz I could read the label.
yeah.
But my parents didn't know that it was caffeinated and so I just
Ooh,
sneakily drank it, which is kind of
ooh.
what I've been doing the whole time is just taking what I want.
Yeah. It's just doing it.
Right. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
great. Love this
Yeah.
root beer.
Yeah. And then like so Sister Wives have been around forever. I think they're on their like what, like
They
17th
just did
season?
19. Yeah, 19 is
19.
like
Yeah, it's
the one that's
insane.
out
They've
right
been
now.
around forever. So like I grew up with them equally as much. And it's really fun to like watch um society A heal, but then B also bring women up too, and just how that's been changing as well. And then just to see their family dynamics never truly change, but at the same time have all the changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's weird because even though that now they're like going through divorces and like kind of, if you will, breaking up the family, they're turning now into the most traditional family roles that I know. Like it's not broken. It's
Right.
you're just it's okay.
And that's why I'm so interested in having these conversations with you is number one, you're really funny. And so I think we're going to laugh a lot. But
Oh my.
I also am so intrigued because I look it when I start to make Sister Wives content, I'll get into it for a while and I'll watch a little bit and then I'll just get kind of overwhelmed with um like disgust, despair. Like I get kind of overwhelmed with like this sensation of like I think I see all of the bad because
Are
I'm
they
part of it.
memories or is it just kind of like just taking you back to when you were just in it?
I think it's more that there are definitely parts of my childhood that are warm and good, right? So I definitely have really fond memories. Like when you were talking about kind of the warmness and sort of the way that your family is what they were you were a unit, but you never were never really there with
Yeah.
each other. There was always someone there,
Mhm.
right? Like you have 16 kids, there's always someone there.
Mhm.
And I remember a certain amount of like happiness. I remember a lot of good times, but then also underneath that, there's sort of as I've done healing, as I've been to therapy, and I've sort of recognized what neglect looks like, what trafficking looks like, what there's sort of
Seems chaotic in a very subdued way.
yeah, yeah. It's
Uh-huh.
like no one was like actively waking up and abusing us every day,
Right.
but we were also working in a what was essentially a factory, right? And so I think it's just hard to it's sort of like it's sort of like in some ways the abuse and the neglect sort of it makes it difficult to trust the good. I think is what
Yeah.
it like it makes it
Yeah.
difficult to say, "Oh yeah, you really crushed that. Thank you for that." Because at the same time that that thing was happening, there was this other thing happening which was that my basic needs as a child weren't getting met.
Mhm. Yeah. No, and I love your honesty with it too, and I like that it's your biggest fear because I honestly feel like a good comedian needs a solid narrative, and it's the more that you use your enlightenment to bring that out that really helps other people, and especially with a lot of people. I mean, it's always been like the thing of any time or any genre or any era is everyone's always questioning what is reality and what is religion, what's next,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and so I think it's like truly like a timeless conversation that every single human encounters. It's just a matter of if you have to go through the ringer of being in a hardcore religious like conglomerate,
Yeah.
or you're kind of free bird and just stitching together whatever you can.
Yeah, and I think too, like in some ways, it's almost like I am that's sort of my superpower is that
Mhm.
I can think in those religious and kind of those like religious like those three things that those are big questions that we've been asking for a long time and that's something that I have like a master's degree in in that kind of thinking because
Yeah.
because that's where I hang on why are you texting me? I put do not disturb on and I said, don't talk to me. Jesus.
I'm talking about my
I'm
80 million siblings, not
talking. Yeah, but
you.
I think that I like to think about advantages of disadvantages, right? So like one of the advantages I think that comes from my background, even as a comedian, is that I can sort of go to those I can talk about religion, I can talk about some of those things with some weight, with some authority,
Mhm.
and and oddly enough, even though comedy is silly, authority is actually really important in comedy. Like being
Oh
able
yeah.
to speak with authority on us, that's why we're listening to you, is because I'm in most instances, we've just tricked you. We've just
Yeah.
tricked you that we have
Yeah.
authority. Um,
Hmm.
but there is a level of that that's sort of in me that I'm able to kind of like embody and and that's part of it too. I think like not only so it's not just that you heal and then the recognition of the bad kind of goes back and taints the good. There's also this process of sort of going back into the bad and finding the good and pulling it through,
Yeah.
right? And saying, actually, I have been the same person the whole time.
Yeah.
There are just it showed up in different ways then than it does now.
Yeah, and especially once you like I fully like dive into like analytical side of things and like, okay, who were you at that time? What were you trying to do? What were you like really ultimately like going after? And did it communicate that way at all? Right.
Mhm.
So that's how it's been. I've also been through like rigorous therapy about like very much healing my like inner child and also just how much of a lone time I had, right? But
Right.
also the superpower they also brought me. So,
See,
yeah,
it's
I
so
did it
we are
again.
like polar opposites.
Yeah, and that's why you're highly fascinating to me. And finally, I got to not just like stalk some Mennonite in a bookstore and just like take pictures and go, oh my God, I can actually like talk to you and ask questions
Yeah,
because you are the epitome of like what I've seen on TV.
I love this. So let's jump in. You watched you've been gone back and rewatched. You rewatched episode 1
Yeah.
for this. So let's jump into it. Ask me some questions.
Okay. So I think it's so fun that the first 30 seconds in, he immediately wants you to meet the family. He is so prideful of them. He's so young, Kody. And he's just genuinely excited. Like it's weird to like be a part of this. I say like, well, part of the family, like I'm another wife or something. But just,
You're like,
we've watched these.
I hear he has vacancies.
Yeah, I mean, there's spots opening. I could get promoted.
Yeah, you could. I could write you a letter of recommendation.
Oh my God, this is great. But like, it's just, we've seen this slow crumble of like him losing control and like dying because of it. And so to see him like and I haven't watched episode one since it aired, right? And then so to watch episode one all over again, he's fresh faced, bushy eyed, what is it? Bright eyed, bushy tailed,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, you don't know the phrase, anyways.
Like tail. My eyes were never my eyes were bright with the knowledge of the kingdom of God.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. But it's just like nice to just see him excited about the family because like he just kind of lost that charm. And so even though his words never changed and like, my kids are my most favorite thing, it's all about my family, it has such a positive connotation within like that first episode and how happy he is to share with everyone. So
And
that was just like
I think
refreshing
I
to
think a
see.
lot of that is because a lot of people like to shit on Kody, and a lot of
Mhm.
people want me to shit on Kody when I talk, and or like to have dirt or like to have something like that. And one of the things that I think is really genuine about, especially him in those episodes, is
Mhm.
he is I think he's 100% sincere.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. He loves being a dad. He is
loves
serving
being
his
a dad.
purpose. He's rocking and rolling in the golden years.
He loves each one of those children, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky, is that
Mhm.
I think that because I think that since then, right, the what's happened to Kody and his kids is sort of what's happened to like me, my relationship with my dad, where my dad's communicated to me, hey, I did my best, and I've communicated to him, yeah, but that wasn't enough.
Yeah, that was bare minimum.
And I think that both of those things are true,
Yeah.
right?
And it can
And
be.
so I understand both, like, because if you have 16 kids, then 100% from you looks like popping around and interacting with every single one of those kids every single day and with all of those wives, right?
Yeah.
And so as from your perspective, you are constantly in dad and husband mode. That is all you are doing all day, every goddamn day. And from the perspective of everyone who's receiving that dad energy, it's like, oh my God, I'm starving. Oh my God,
Yeah.
where, and both of those things are true. Um, which I think just makes it, I think that makes me sad.
Yeah, yeah, no, because I mean, it's very much like the both, it's the duality, right? So it's just like, sure, you get this huge conglomerate, but on the negative end, you have to deal. It's just, I always think of that too, especially like in growth or like when you like truly have to like challenge yourself, because like even if you're playing Donkey Kong, right? When you're on level two, you get level two Donkey Kong monster. It's pretty beatable. That's not that bad, right?
And
But when
Donkey
you get to
Kong
level
is wait, no, I know this one. Donkey Kong is like King Kong, but
Mhm.
he's a donkey. So it's like a giant donkey who is in who dresses up as an ape, and you have to defeat him.
Honestly, I like that so much better. So let's just go with
Okay,
that.
perfect.
Yeah,
That is now Donkey Kong. In my brain, that's what Donkey Kong is.
that's what Donkey Kong is. It's basically shoots and ladders with a big old ape who just like throws shit at you.
Oh, so the American election.
Yeah, yeah. So, like I said, you're not really far off.
I love this. Okay, back to the conversation.
Yeah, yeah. But like, really, it's just like whenever you're like on level two of something, you get level two challenge, right? And then when you're
Totally.
on level five, you get level five challenge. Well, when you're like
Yeah.
level 19, you have to deal with some big, scary, hairy stuff in order to like get what you benefit from it, right?
Mhm.
But I do like just even seeing like Kody even just like I like marriage because he didn't like being married to nobody.
I know.
Like when he was like, I like marriage, I like legitimately pause the TV and like shit myself because I forgot that he wasn't this big scary guy. He wasn't aggressive. He
Yeah.
is such a different person. I mean, even though he talks like about all the wives like a fucking baseball lineup, like, oh, that's my number one starter. Oh, that's my number two. And then you got Gypsy Rose in the basement. Like,
I didn't understand any of that, but I love it. I caught the energy of that.
you're like, yay.
Wait, I just have to know why is Christine Gypsy Rose?
Okay, so Gypsy Rose, you've never heard of her?
No, I thought is she a baseball player? That's what I thought.
Okay,
You were
so
making a
she's
baseball
actually a
reference.
very noteworthy um killer.
Oh,
Yeah. So basically her mom was pretty mentally ill and chose Gypsy, like her daughter, and was basically like, you're so sick, you have cancer, you have all this stuff, and just completely made her into a slave in her own house. So she
Jesus.
would never leave her. And then finally, when Gypsy started like having the laptop and like branching out and whatever, her and her boyfriend conspired to kill the mom so Gypsy could finally be free because
Right.
she's been healthy forever, right? And then so to have like this wife in the basement who's shut away and she's like, I'm just happy to be here. It's like, you're Gypsy Rose.
Right. Totally. Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like
And
it's not even the bare minimum. Like you live in a basement,
yeah.
you're not even a part of the same, you're a part of the same house. Okay, I do have to talk about the houses for 2 seconds because I am always so enthralled and infatuated by how they're so DIY because I come from suburbs that's just cookie cutter where it's every five
Yeah.
houses look the same. You can literally count the make and models, right? And then you can go to Hillcrest and accidentally stumble upon a polygamous town and you have no idea because you're just on your bike with your best friend and then you're just like, oh, all these mansions are unfinished. Oh,
This is where we are. Yeah.
yeah.
So to understand that, you have to understand where it all comes from because so these polygamists are growing out of a culture of Mormonism, and the Mormons escaped from America because America killed Joseph Smith in the 1850s. And so they escaped, they ran off into the desert, they formed a giant polygamous compound called Utah. And and
With the
while they were
sequels.
right. Then they send out a bunch of like a bunch of invasion pods like for other to do other ones are all over the place, and then live polygamy for a long time and then stop. But some of them didn't stop, but in doing that, like, they're moving into nowhere, and so they're literally building their world, right? They're building their house, like all of this stuff. And so when the LDS church abandons polygamy and the polygamists keep it, they kind of get shunted into the bottom rung of society. And so they're just really good. They've been building their own towns, their own houses, their own for hundreds of years, right? They've been,
Yeah, and it like
yes.
it's
And
really
they build it
impressive.
according to what they need, right? So what they need
Yeah,
is big,
yeah,
complicated houses, and they can do that because they know how to build houses because they've been doing it the whole time.
yeah, yeah. It seems like a homestead on crack, where it's just like a lot of
100%.
like a lot of the decisions seem almost impulsive, where it's like, oh, we're having another baby. Oh, we're just having another wife. Oh, I'm having four more kids, right?
Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh, by the way, we just got to build like five more rooms, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, but at the same time, they actually have the tools and the like materials
They
and
can
the
actually do
knowledge
it.
to
Yeah,
make it happen.
totally.
So
So in my
in
family,
one hand, it's not impulsive.
right, right. It's sort of both, right? And
Mhm.
so and that's such because even with my family, right? So my family's up in Wyoming, living a slightly different life than Cody's family, but we're still doing the same thing. But what we do is so we're living in these trailers, like these trailers you'd find at like in a trailer park anywhere. But when we needed more space, we would just buy another trailer and put it next to the trailer and then knock out the walls between the trailers and build a roof over the top.
Wait,
Like,
that's actually kind of sick.
it's pretty sick, right?
Yeah.
Like
But
on the one hand, you're kind of like, oh my God, like what is going on here? And then
like
on the
there's
other
some
hand, you're kind of
material.
like, look, but look, I have a double wide now.
Yeah.
Now my trailer is a triple wide. I shit you not, 5 or 6 trailers in a row to make a big old house.
That's so impressive. We
I
have
know.
those at shopping malls in Vegas.
We're so cute.
Like Container Park.
100%, yeah, but it's your family.
That it's like it's such a quick fix. It's
Yeah,
so like,
it's quick. It doesn't rely on sort of the infrastructure of the United States, right? You don't have to get loans for that. You don't have to, I mean, if you're slamming double wides together, you probably don't have building permits,
probably not.
right? Who needs
Classy licensed constructor.
no, who needs building permits when you talk to God, right?
You
Like,
know,
God is your building permit.
you can just skip a couple rings on the ladder.
Right. The government's evil.
Yeah. Like, I think it's more and like correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just like, there has to be like some type of like legal understanding of why it was illegal for the longest time. And I think it's because of like certain little things like that, where it's like, yeah, you're making your own structures. Like,
Yeah, I think that, I mean, so it becomes illegal in like the 1890s. And in the 1890s, it's really not about making polygamy illegal. It's really more about from like the 1870s to like the 1890s, the US government is actually at war essentially with the Mormon church. So they
oh,
actually they send an army out to Utah to subdue
oh,
us.
because they thought it was about like child brides and stuff, right?
Well, they said that for them it was polygamy. That was the but they called it. In fact, the Republicans are taking over and like doing the Civil War back in the East. They're bagging on what they call the twin relics of barbarism, which were slavery and polygamy. So when the Republicans rise to power, and then especially after the Civil War, when the Republicans are in power, they're like, we're going to go after. So it really wasn't so much about. It was more about sort of Mormons were outside of the cultural value of sort of Victorian Christianity, and
Mhm.
they were. I mean, Brigham Young was essentially setting up. He had a theocracy, right? Like there. In fact, there's a movie coming out pretty soon about. How he ordered some people killed because he was like a straight up mob boss.
Wow. Okay.
Or that the church had this stranglehold on Utah, right? And so it was a
Mhm.
power struggle between the United States government and the LDS Church, and the focal point of that was polygamy. So they made polygamy illegal because it was so outside the norms for Christian society. And the church kept fighting that. They were like, no, we won't, no, we won't, no, we won't, because
Uh,
Mormons are uh Mormons aren't fucking around, right? Like they believe this shit.
I mean,
And
they come in numbers, that's for sure.
they were, yeah, we make a lot.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and so eventually, so it's like they went through a couple of prophets, and eventually one of them caved and was like, okay, we're going to get rid of the polygamy thing. But that, I mean, they almost didn't let Utah become a state. In fact, they passed legislation. Ultimately, what did it is they passed legislation at the federal level that basically made it so that the church wasn't a legal entity anymore and would have seized all of their assets, like the temple,
Uh,
all of their stuff. And it was only after that that the leadership was like, okay, we'll toe the line. Like we'll get rid of this
got
polygamy
it.
thing. We'll stop kind of we'll take a backseat in politics. We're not, I mean, they haven't. They've
Yeah. Yeah.
but there's really kind of that struggle that's happening right at the birth of, I mean, Utah almost doesn't become a state over this. Like they held hostage the statehood for a while, and and that's sort of the origin of this conflict that is then sort of channeled into. That's what I think is so fascinating about Sister Wives is that,
I was gonna say, I love that you know all this history because, like, I don't
yeah,
remember
because this
anything.
story of this family isn't happening in a vacuum, right? Like um the reason that polygamists are scared of the government is because they were part of a cult. Like this is their origin story. They were part of a cult that left America because America in their mind killed their leader, Joseph Smith. So they
Mhm.
fled into the deserts of Utah to be left alone to build the
Mhm.
kingdom of God. They were like, we do not want to be part of America anymore. We are leaving. And then they went out
Yeah,
into the middle of the desert where nobody wanted to be to try to make a holy nation.
you were really trying.
and that's sort of the background, right? So that's sort of the historical context that drives people like Kody and Mary and Christine and all of my family to make choices about that don't make sense to people on the outside because they're not living in sort of the historical narrative that, because you're not coming from a place of is Mormonism true or not, or or what version of Mormonism is true, because you're like all of Mormonism isn't. But that's the
Yeah.
world that and there's actually a lot of real conflict in that history.
Yeah. No, and it's like it's incredible too, just because like I mean, that's where you guys really shine is just like telling those stories and like activating them within your teachings and everything,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I think is always
There's
like
a
really, really
reason that the
cool.
LDS Church has billions of dollars and there are temples all over the world. Is that
Hmm.
Mormonism has created a a very, very potent myth that when you activate it in the right way, you can control a lot of humans. And that's really what I think when I because I I can appreciate the desire to kind of let everyone live their own lives. And there's something about polygamy that is really difficult for me to say that people are making choices because it's this whole world that they're in. And that's not me wanting to like take away choices. It's just me wanting to help the public really understand that we're dealing with brainwashing here. Like, and not as that's not like a pejorative. I'm not like insulting. I'm just talking about as
No,
like
no, no. Well,
what's
it's like even when you go to college, you are surrounded by people who thought college is a good choice. You know,
right,
you're not around trade school people. You're not around,
right,
this is your first exposure of like truly like leaving and breaking everything away. And then it's just, it goes by school, it goes by region, it goes by why you chose that school. Like, you know, are you going to like a top 12 packed, you know, top Pac-12 school, or, you know, are you like going to somewhere for like aviation? It's very specific. And then so you have to like realize of just like, oh, of course I'm going to be around a lot of the people who are the same of mentality.
right, right. That's what we do as humans. Is
Yeah,
we
this is our
gravitate
common
right.
ground. So,
We
yeah.
love to be surrounded by people who share the delusions that we share.
Mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
not me even saying delusion, like calling people delusional. That's me saying in a lot of ways, and this is something that I feel
Why do I
actually
hang around
really
single girls and question why we're single? It's because we're all fucking crazy.
right, right. Like we all live in made up worlds,
Mhm.
right? We all live in these worlds, and some of us exist in really big. We're all playing pretend together, right? And the way that people play pretend in Mormonism, um, is I mean is really powerful. I mean, if you can make fun of, and I do make fun of Mormonism quite a lot, but no one would ever accuse Mormons at being bad at getting shit done.
Yeah. Oh my God, they're so efficient. Are you kidding me? Because like when you got 16 kids, like redoing a farm, 2 days
2 days
tops.
tops, right? And those little ones, those little hands, they can pick up, they can get rocks out of tricky places.
The smaller the Mormon, the better the Mormon.
Exactly. We're just like tiny little Mormons. Oh,
Yeah. It is impressive to see them do yard work and they're all just like raking all together. And I'm like, you mean to tell me that you just have 8 rakes available?
I know, like, and that's in episode one, right? There's that big, and that's a pretty common thing, right? Like, I remember doing things like that where we'd all get together as a family, and we're all gonna go clean the yard together, or we're gonna do like, and you can knock out a project if you've got 3 wives and 16 kids and enough
Yeah.
rakes, you can
Yeah.
knock the fuck out of any project that you need to get
Yeah. Set the timer. We're fine. Yeah.
right. Like,
Pop the lasagna in. We'll be good in an hour.
here we go. Especially if you promise all those kids half a popsicle at the end of it.
Ooh, easy bribes. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. You only get
What were
half
your
a popsicle.
bribes?
What's that?
Were you guys gifted like any type of like allowance or anything?
So when I didn't get any allowance. When I started working in the bakery, I first worked for a pig that I never received. And then I started working for money. And so I started working when I was 8. When I was 11, I think I started getting paid 25 cents an hour. And so I was just, and I'll have you know that before I left, when I left at 17 to go to college, I was making $3 an hour. So your boy gets paid.
I was gonna say, so you're just rich.
I
Got
started
it.
at 25 cents. I didn't let that ceiling hold
Hand
me.
over fist, baby.
I got 50 cents, then I got 75, then I got a dollar, then I got $1.50, and then I didn't even care. I just went straight for $3. I was
All
like,
guns blazing.
I've been working really hard. I've been crushing it. I've been pulling 16-hour days. I think I'm worth it to this company, Dad. I think I'm worth $3 an hour. He couldn't argue.
Oh my God, that is crazy. I love that.
uh,
I love that. Okay, and also another thing too about Kody is that he was not raised in a polygamous home.
no, no,
Yeah.
they're LDS. So my family has been Mormon since 1835. So which is like 5 years after it started. So Mormonism starts in 1830, or that's when the church is officially organized, when it's legally organized. And then 1835, my ancestor Ebenezer Brown joins, which is the most polygamous name
That is the
you
most
could.
like, yeah, we get it.
Yeah, Ebenezer Brown has oxen.
Yeah. Yeah. Ebenezer Brown wears tweed.
100%. The hand woven tweed from his many wives,
Yeah. From all eight. Yeah.
from all 8 wives and 75 children. No, so Ebenezer Brown goes. What's interesting is he's like a first generation immigrant. So his dad was born in Scotland. They immigrate to America. Ebenezer's born in America. He joins a cult, follows that cult all the way out to Utah.
Mhm.
He has, I think, 5 wives and like 25 kids. His son is a polygamist. I think that son as well. So his grandson is a polygamist as well. But then when the LDS church stops practicing polygamy, uh, they go with the LDS church. So they're like, okay, well, we're going to stop doing polygamy. And so
Got it.
then the next several generations are all LDS until my grandfather Win and my dad and Kody and that generation. So
Yeah.
my
He
grandparents,
redirected that
they
shit.
all joined, they all joined in like the 80s, like the late 80s.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Yep. Okay. And like this is one thing that I picked up, I think only like 2 years ago, was that Mormons are the baseline of like 23andMe because you guys know your lineage so
Oh,
well.
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah. I
we've been
couldn't tell you anything about my great great grandma.
important because we have to baptize everyone.
Oh, true. Yeah.
So
You have to
which
check their
which
name.
is which is annoying and also endearing, right? Which I think Mormons are both of those things. I think they're really annoying, but also if you sort of can persist past the annoyingness, there's a whole bunch of earnestness.
Mhm.
And the earnestness there is the Mormons are literally trying to build through 23andMe, through something called Family Search, like they're building a genealogy for the whole world. They want
Mhm.
every person in the world to to have a family tree, and so that they can baptize them. Because
Yeah.
in the Mormon world, in some ways, kind of everyone should go to heaven. Everyone's going to get baptized because we're going to do it.
Yeah. 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 I'm gonna insure it. Yeah.
We're going to ensure it. We're going to make companies. We're going to build buildings.
Yeah.
We're going to make giant,
I'll give you
swimming
life
pools that we put
insurance
on the
and
back.
afterlife insurance. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we're
I
not. We're gonna take care of you guys. Nobody is not getting into heaven on the Mormons' watch, except
Well,
for me.
yeah. What were they even saying in that first episode where it's just like, oh, they're sisters from the same misters and brothers from different mothers. And I
Yeah,
was like, oh, you guys are
we
so
had to,
nerdy and I
we had to
love
come
it.
up with dumb little sayings so that we felt a little normal.
Yeah. And I was like, what a stretch. Like, way
What's
to keep it
interesting too
cool.
about that actually, and this kind of goes back to comedy, is that that's sort of a way to respond to the otherness and an
Yeah.
attempt to be funny to sort of soften it, right?
Mhm.
And actually, I think that that's something that a lot of polygamists do is polygamists are actually real funny. Like they've got a great sense of humor, and they only joke. Their context is a little limited, so it's hard to tell
Yeah.
jokes sometimes.
Yeah. You can't
Because
even talk about Donkey Kong.
they need to Google jokes in the middle of the setup. They're like, hold on,
Yeah.
okay, I'm
I'm
with you.
looking at McDonald's. Yeah.
But I think I actually think that's maybe one of the ways that I sort of picked it up is they're using that as kind of a social lubricant because they feel awkward in public, and they feel like in some ways they kind of feel like the world is kind of out to get them. And
Mhm.
in some ways that's true because everyone is looking at them funny
Yeah.
because they look funny. But it's
Yeah.
not because they're vindictive or have bad intentions. I think most people are, if
Type
anything,
of white people who are all nerds. Like,
right. We're just like, whoa, look at
yeah.
that.
Like,
I didn't
is
know
that a
Comic Con.
daycare or a field trip?
Right, exactly. And but that can kind of feel when you're on the outside, that feels a little threatening, especially if I'm running a program that says that you're wicked. And
Mm.
so I want to be, if I'm going to connect with you, humor is kind of an easy way. So I telling jokes about like, yeah, sister from another mister and a brother from another mother, right? Like that's
Mhm.
sort of a way to kind of like be who you are, but also be accepted into the broader
Yeah.
society.
Because I even remember Kody talking about like how he was very nervous about how people would perceive him and like his job role and everything. Like heaven forbid that got out. And I'm just like, it's kind of funny to hear them talk the same way that swingers talk. Because they're just like, oh, heaven forbid, like then I'm out of the stock market. And you're just like, what? Like it's so weird to me that people care about what other people do in the comfort of their own home.
Mhm.
Because I'm such an ally for like gay people. And then so it's just like between that and swingers and polygamists,
Yeah.
it's an odd it's an odd ground that you all stand on.
Right. It's an odd place to say this is the line. And what's
Mhm.
interesting too is that I think that in a lot of ways, Sister Wives has actually made it better for polygamists because of, and I don't know that it was worth the cost because in some ways I think that I'm still weighing that. Like when I think about the social cost to my family of that show, I mean, it's heavy, right? Like there's real suffering that has come in my family because of that. And the world is way more open to polygamists than they've ever been before, right? Like people are having it's not as weird, right? It's also done what I think that they actually intended to do, which
Yeah.
was
Spark
create
a
a
conversation.
more open society that allows their kids uh to be able to exist and to play on the same field.
Yeah.
And I think that worked. I think that's
Like,
good.
yeah, because their whole thing is like raising like ethical, productive members of society. And
Mhm.
then it's like weird because then it's like, well, you're so excluded, but yeah, when you think everything else is wicked and out for you, like it's this weird dichotomy of like you want to be so incorporated, but like only over here.
Right, right. And also hilariously, the thing that is keeping you from integrating into society is your own fear. Right?
Yeah.
Like nobody's actually out to get you, polygamists. Like no one is coming for your kids. No one thinks that a lot of people think your religion is stupid, but let's be real, a lot of people think that a lot of different people's religion is stupid in America. That's just
Mhm.
the way that we think about other people sometimes. But no one is actively like gunning for them in the way that I think that they think people are. And
Yeah.
and
Because
that
like yeah, like I even think of it too of like the Orthodox Jews that are like specific to New York and they like are only there, they never leave. And then we don't have the same like juxtaposition against them the same way that a lot of people just kind of like talk shit about polygamists.
right.
Yeah. And I'm like, the Jews have been doing this on the East Coast forever.
I know. It's like other people. There are
Yeah,
other
they got a
people that
little
are religious
town. Like,
communities. Yeah.
yeah.
In fact, it's one of the favorite things, one of the religious community's favorite things to do is to insulate.
I mean, it's great when you can just like, oh, I trust this whole community and I don't need to worry about anything. Like,
Right.
yeah, sign me up.
And honestly, Kay, that is one of the things that I think like I think that part of what has fascinated people about Sister Wives is that, like you said, there are elements of the community and the family, the emphasis on family that are maybe lacking in the broader society that feel like I think that we're starving for community in the world. And and
why else do you think online is a community? Like it's
Right.
like all these like made up worlds, even online and avatars or whatever. It's just because I don't fit in here, I don't fit in there. So you like always continue to perpetually like look for more. Um, yeah, it's just so crazy. And then especially the wives too, they're like screaming in his face like what their needs are. And they're like, I need you to hang out with me tonight. I need this, you know? And then at the time is like in the 19, early 80s when a lot of women weren't speaking up, and that's like that very much like lost generation of women.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it was just weird to
there are a
see.
lot of really powerful women in polygamy. Like
Yeah.
and kind of, and not in the way that necessarily the worldview empowers you, but sort of in the way that like when you're, and maybe this is the way that like I call them sturdy. Like I call polygamous women sturdy because I think that's like the perfect description for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And
They're standing on the ground, they ain't moving.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is it's sort of like when you have a bunch of puppies and they're all kind of fighting for food, it makes they get stronger, right? And in some ways, I don't know if this is good necessarily, but in some ways, the because there is this limited resource of the husband's attention and all of the wives have to sort of vie for that, they do there is the opportunity perhaps for them to become really adept at speaking up for themselves, at assisting, at collaborating together, and then going and like, which I think we see a lot of that in early episodes with the OG3, is they are pretty good at working together, and then they can go
Yeah.
snag Kody anytime they need.
Yeah. Well, Andy goes on a date with them like 3 times a week just to like balance everything out. Like, my parents, they went out on a date maybe like once a month. Like
Right. Yeah.
they went to like Mexico for 1 week out of the year. Like they didn't take dates. And then he's like, oh, I'm just gone 3 times a week. And then you're like, that's even less time for the kids. And then if you're doing like one thing with each kid and you're like number 16, you're not seeing your dad for like 2.5 weeks. It's crazy.
It's crazy and also exhausting as a man. Can you imagine 3 dates in a week that you have to plan and you have to do, and
Yeah.
then you go and you do it, and then it's still not enough because everyone needs more of me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like it's fascinating to like watch the TLC that it really truly started with. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? It
Yeah.
really did. Yeah. And then I don't know, even just some of their hairstyles too. I just wrote like Mary's bangs, LOL love.
We take our hair seriously.
I
Yeah.
could tell.
And
Yeah.
actually, honestly, hair is a big deal. And like, so women in polygamy are supposed to have long hair. There's ritualistic reasons for that in the temple. They'll actually do things with that long hair, and
Really?
actually, yeah, uh-huh. And
Oh.
um, they talk about that's why you see like the swoop, like the is that that's supposed
Oh, yeah. And then
to,
some, yeah.
yeah.
Like the font thing.
And then as a man, you should not have long hair. Like this is super wicked.
You sinner. Yeah.
I'm sinning. So long, sinful. This I can chew on this hair.
Yeah.
Sometimes I
Eat your sins. Yeah.
do.
It's protein.
Hell yeah.
What's also funny too is I forgot how they have to have that conversation of like, we don't have orgies together. We are all
Yeah.
individually married.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Because
Which
I do remember that being such a hot topic.
I love that they said that too, because that means someone thought that.
Oh, and the producer was sitting right in front of their face going, yo, do you know how many people are fucking thinking of this?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
They're just
it's
like,
weird.
no, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're just like, we would never. That's like, ew.
I think that Christine is the one that does that in that episode. And I love that because she's so funny. Like she's just like so like, "Oh, we would never. We would never."
Christina's so funny. I love her so much because like we had a lot of like family friends, and there's like this pack of like 6 families that we would all just kind of like go camping with. All the kids were in the same schools, and we were all just kind of like generally around the same ages and whatever, right? So we would go camping once a year with all these 6 families, have like, 6 jet skis, 2 boats, and just take turns doing like whatever meal. And it was just kind of funny because that's when we would just like pretend to play polygamist or just like, okay, like go respect like
Wait,
Chris. Okay,
did
now it's
you call it
Julie's turn. Like, okay, now Linda.
did you call it play polygamist?
I mean, now I'm going to because I didn't realize what we were doing at the time, but like we definitely had like this interlocked ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Uh,
it is kind of fun. Oh, and then also in the first episode, they're actually going around the house and hugging each other.
mhm. Yeah.
You like lose sense of that real fast.
Oh,
So
yeah, which is because I remember that household, right? Like I remember being in that home. I remember how it felt, and I always remember it feeling really good. Like
that's good.
it felt safe, it felt nice, it felt like a place where there was a lot of love. And
Good.
um, it's sad to sort of see what reality television will do to
Yeah.
a family.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, but like, and again, it's just kind of like my house was just like passing members of, we were just trying to be functional members of society too, right?
well, and I
Like,
think about that sometimes too, like in some ways, the way that I was raised was so different, but also not, right? Like also all families have their things,
yeah.
right? Like all families have pros, all families have, there's always like, there's this, we all kind of have to deal with the families that we have, and the
Yep.
families that we have give us kind of like you were saying, like strengths and weaknesses. Like there's some things that we're super good at because of my family, and there's some things
Mhm.
that I'm super bad at because of my
Yeah.
family origin, right? And I think
Yeah.
that it's just really interesting to hear your perspective, because it seems like you're looking in on this family and you're thinking, oh, the warmth, like the big warmth of like everyone there, like that's really appealing. And I'm
Because
looking
I
at,
only got that with extended family on certain holidays,
yeah, huh?
Yeah. And then for you to have that daily, and then just to have like the philosophy of like, what can I do to help you? What can you do to help me philosophy?
Uh,
When my household was very independent of like, get your shit done and then come back home when you're done,
yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds so nice. Like,
Yes and no until you're just like, thanks.
right. Right. Eventually, you're kind of like it's sort of like you get lost in the crowd, or you get lost in the space,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
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 Interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, because a lot of my friends have always just like, oh, why do you prioritize your friends over certain family members or this and that? And I was like, because this is where I've had emotional connections. Like my friends are the ones who understand the depths and um the challenges that like me and my family just we weren't really overly emotional. So like we had to like really build up a lot of big parts in order to bring us down to that same communication level that I would already have with
Yeah.
anyone else.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's weird to have that like reverse effect.
Turns out everyone's family is a little fucked up.
Yeah, yeah, but also like the cool thing about being a polygamist is you have 48 different personalities in the same household. So
That's
you're learning this on day one.
that's
Like
true.
you guys are social. You know how to socialize.
Yeah, 100%, which is funny because we often get crap for not being able to do that, but actually we're pretty like what's interesting about that is I've just now realized that I'm one of the things I'm actually really good at is navigating tricky social interactions, or like navigating a community, or like navigate like I'm really, really good at reading a group of people and understanding what's going on and then navigating that world. I'm
Mhm.
I can do that in my sleep. And
Yeah.
I've just realized that a big part of that is just the it's like everything else. It's repetition, it's reps. How many reps do you get? And
Mhm.
when you're in a large family like that, you just have to sort of navigate a lot more than if you don't. And in some ways that kind of like in some ways that kind of is really helpful, because it sort of like toughens you up. It kind of like it sort of like gets you into this space of like, oh, I can manage myself. I can take care of myself. Um,
Yeah.
that can
Well,
kind
and
of
the
go
cool
too
thing
far and
is,
become like avoidant attachment, where I'm just like,
yeah,
nobody ever needs to help me ever. I'm the best by myself.
yeah.
And that's a trauma response. That's an overreaction to
Mhm.
to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I do like the raw honesty of just like how you need to understand your strengths and your weaknesses so you can better serve the family. Like, who was it? Janelle, she's like, yeah, I don't cook. I'm not the cooking mom. I'm the working mom.
Right. And actually that, right, like that as a there's something I think really cool about the idea to me of living with a community of adults who share responsibilities like that, right?
Yeah.
Because like some people really like to cook and some people really don't. And some people really like to work. And so there's when you get a bunch of people together, this is why tribes are so effective. The
You're
reason
right.
humans kick ass with tribes is that you get a bunch of humans together, they will all do what they are naturally good at and enjoy, and that will be what the group needs, right?
Mhm.
And because the group doesn't need 8 people to cook, the group needs a couple people to cook. The group
Exactly.
doesn't need all of the people to make money. The group doesn't need all of the people to care for children. The group needs some, and everyone is kind of has proclivities that are nat. And so in some ways, right, like it's so interesting because in some ways Janelle is less liberated than other women, but in
Mhm.
other ways she's more liberated than other women.
Yeah. hmm And like, I honestly kind of like envy her the most because I'm like, you get all of the benefits out of this. You get not only a daycare that you born and bred yourself, right?
Right.
But you also get to work. You also get to like do everything you kind of want to, plus benefit from having the traditional role.
Yeah. Yeah, and in
Mhm.
a lot of ways, like that is, and that's why I think that, like, especially watching these earlier shows, I think a lot of the ways that they are talking about how they enjoy the benefits of polygamy are really sincere. I
Mhm.
think that like that really worked for Janelle in the world that she was in and the place that she was in. She got to have a thing that she wanted. Um,
Mhm.
and then it also came with like everything it comes with the seeds of its own destruction because everything's
Yeah.
about everything.
Yeah, because like I do notice that it's like some of the boys who are the older ones in the family, they take on that role of the dad for each like household. Was that you?
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was
That
that like a lot of pressure or did you feel guided?
um I mean, at the time I wouldn't have called it pressure,
Mhm.
but looking back, yeah, it's parentification, right? It's too much. And um it's interesting too because it's not that I thought that I was dad necessarily. I wouldn't have thought of myself as dad. I just
You're
did
still man of the
I'm
house.
still I'm not but I'm doing a lot like when my younger brother was born, he was like 14 years younger than me. He slept in my room and I kind of became after he was like old enough to move out of his mom's room and into my room, I kind of became like his caregiver, right? Like he was sleeping in my so I'd like wake up with him, I'd help him. So I was like doing a lot of that stuff. And at the time I'm like 14, it doesn't feel like I'm not thinking, "Oh, I'm so oppressed because I have to take care of this child." I'm thinking, "Oh, this is my brother and I love him and I'm going to take care of him," right? This is what you do is you
Yeah.
take care of your
Yeah.
family. And
Yeah. Other kids get a dog, you get a baby.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Naturally.
a baby is just basically a dog that accelerates faster. Like
Yeah.
you got to keep them,
Yeah.
you got to feed them, you got to keep them clean. Um,
Yeah.
you can't rub their nose in their poo, which is a bummer. But
Yeah. But a baby does grow into tiny hands and he can do yard work.
exactly. And they're so good at working in bakeries.
They're so good. Honestly, I went to Hillcrest and of course I go to like this little tiny like breakfast place. Best biscuits and jam I've ever had in my life.
Yeah. Well, and like for real, like I what's interesting too, right, is again, it's not all bad. Like I've actually taken my kids to the ranch. Like they've gone home with me. They know where I've been. At different periods in my relationship with my family, I've tried to one, I want them to just see where I've come from. And at different periods, I've tried to like reconcile in different ways. And but so like my oldest worked in the bakery for a while. Like she went in, like we were there for a day. She went in and like rolled bread for an hour. And afterwards, she was like, this was so fun. Like
Oh,
she had a blast. And because this is the thing, right? Humans actually like doing work. Like
yeah.
we like doing things like that. And
Yeah. And it's
it's
not like
not
you guys are in organized sports or like,
right. We're
after
not
school
doing other things
facilities.
like that. And
Yeah.
so the issue isn't necessarily, well, I have like I definitely have issues with like I was working with industrial machines as like a 11-year-old, which you shouldn't do. Right? Like that's a
Yeah.
level of
A little
responsibility
far. Yeah.
more than
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
right?
Baking cookies with mom in the in the kitchen, totally
Right.
different than a bakery.
Exactly, exactly. But what that did mean is that as a 12-year-old boy, I had the confidence of working with something that was big and a little bit dangerous, right?
Mhm.
Like I could do that, right? I was reliable
Yeah.
to do that. Um, and then that also came with the added, the added sort of the thing on top of I didn't choose this, right? So it's not so like I did it and I was supposed to, but also having realized how I should have been compensated or what we have rules around things like that. It feels like that life force was stolen from me. So there's this wound of like, oh, I thought that I was giving this energy to something that I was being that I was being valued here, that I was actually being that this was a fair and equitable exchange. But now I'm
Mhm.
realizing that it's actually extreme, that I was taken advantage of, that I was
Yeah.
because kids shouldn't be working 16-hour days in 95-degree bakeries, right? Like
Yeah.
that
It's
is
a
not
little much.
something children
Yeah.
should be doing.
Yeah. Little much. Yeah. I know. Cause like even in the first episode is like, I think it's Christine's kids. They accidentally like let the oven go too long and they burn the toast and
Yeah.
she's pissed. And at first I'm like, okay, it's toast. Like you have no problems, whatever. Right. But then I also look as they bring out all the toast and I was like, yeah, that's probably like a good 2 loaves of bread. So,
Yeah, which is a lot of money, but actually
Mhm.
wasn't because I'm pretty sure that I made that bread.
Are you serious?
I mean, probably what that bread was is that we would make a bunch of bread and we would have rejects and we would have returns. So after we
Okay.
would deliver the bread to the store, we would go back in a week and any that hadn't sold, we'd take back. So they weren't bad yet, but they were kind of like
On their way out.
they were
Yeah.
on their way out, right? And so
Yeah.
we'd freeze, and then when we would make the bread, we would have like bread, like maybe some had holes in it, or maybe some fell on the floor or something. So we'd have rejects. So we would freeze the rejects and the day old bread. And then anytime we went down to Utah, because we were in Wyoming, the bigger polygamous community is down in Utah. So anytime we would go down to Utah to go to church in this big building, we'd bring all of this frozen reject and day old bread, and we'd give it away to all of the polygamists.
Oh my God, I
We
love
were
this. It's
super
like
popular.
this is crazy. Okay. Well, do your kids think your family's ranch is like crazy or did they like it? Like, did they
they
like going home with you?
they enjoyed it. They also, I think, recognize like I think they can see it as like a cool place to visit, but they also sort of see that like living there would be because I mean they're living in these double wides, right? But that also
Yeah.
means that like they're falling apart. Like the
Right.
last time I was up there, like my mom literally had a hole in her floor. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so
It's
like
not sexy. It's
yeah, it's
yeah.
kind of like, but also, I mean, it's interesting, right? There's trees, there's rocks, it's outside, right? There's a lot of, you know, um, it's more interesting than, sitting inside and working on, algebra two.
Yeah. 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 And then like what else did I have? Um Yeah, it's just like it's so crazy to me how they're just like, oh yeah, you're having problems in your marriage, just like add another wife.
Yeah, right.
Don't fix it, add more shit to your plate.
Yeah. Yeah. And really what that is, right, is what that's really saying from a control, like from the control level of the cult, because the cult is always
It's
trying to
shut
control.
up moment.
It's saying, shut up and go deeper, double
Yeah.
down, right?
Yeah. Like
Double
if
down,
it's a challenge now, make it a bigger challenge to
make it a
test
bigger
them.
challenge, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
which is wild, and also make some sturdy bitches.
Because like I just forgot how much of like Mary was just like such a point of power and like how she was just queen bee and Kody kept saying, "Oh, it's a blessing, like, she's my favorite, blah blah blah," and just to see them so affectionate and like it's just it's so sad to see like where they're at now and how he just like takes everything back of like, "I wish I never married you," and you're like, bro, it's on fucking film. Like,
Right.
just acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It's sad when relationships end in a way that taints the previous. And I think a big part of that, a big reason for that is that there was probably, I think especially in Mormon households and especially in polygamous households, there's a lot of resentment that goes unexpressed because
Yeah.
you're told sort of keep sweet. You're told kind of
Mhm.
don't be contentious. Just
Yep.
kind of like, and so you
Don't be a bother. Yeah.
right. Rather than actually going to a person that you have, if you have an issue with and kind of like working it out, you stuff it and you pretend and you pretend and you pretend. And so I think really what we're seeing now isn't that that was untrue. It's that this is the result of decades of stuffing little resentments that
Hmm.
are have now gotten too big, right? It's just now it's like
Yeah.
I just can't even anymore, right?
Yeah.
And and I get that, right? I've been in dynamics where that's happened to me, where I've sort of like not expressed how I really feel because I wasn't told, I wasn't brought up to believe that that was good or a pot. Like now, having done some therapy, now I'm
Very
like,
good stage. Yeah.
right now it's like my emotions are actually tools for my tribe, right? Like actually expressing how I feel to people is how I tell them how to take care of me, right? If I'm
Yeah.
angry, that's me saying, "Hey, listen to me. Something bad is happening." If I'm
Hmm.
sad, I'm saying, "Hey, I need." So like now I'm like, "Oh, the way when we have emotions, that's bringing people in to help us." And you get taught emotions are burdens, right? You don't want to burden people with your emotions. They
Hmm.
might not be they might be impure or ungenerous, right? They might be contentious. And so we're not going to feel those, we're going to stuff them. And so then
Yeah.
every day we're stuffing and we're stuffing and we're pretending and we're pretending and we're stuffing and we're stuffing and
And
then
that's also what I did notice was like all the retail smiles because they always say it's like this group effort, group decision, but then ultimately it's Kody who doesn't tell anyone that he was courting Robin,
yeah,
right? And then so it was a surprise to everyone. And I'm just like, okay, so you're saying one thing, but then the ultimate decider is you. So then it's not a group.
yeah,
And then you're stuck in this like weird, like, no, we're happy. It's like,
yeah. And I
you
think
have
that's
feelings
where
about
things
this.
start to break down is that they talk a good talk, right? And they represent a good like, and we do that all the time, right? We're really good at that. But then the actual practice of it doesn't quite live up to what we're saying it is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And and that creates this sort of lack of integrity that kind of allows for I think a lot of negative vibes to kind of
Mhm.
exist.
Yeah, because I find it really interesting that the OG3 were married without any kids at one point. And
Yeah.
they were all jamming and cruising and they were having a good time.
Yeah.
And I
I'll
think it
bet that
was,
was a great time.
yeah, but and the funniest thing too is I think it was Janelle. She was like, "Yeah, I don't really remember my wedding day. It wasn't special." And like, I think he kind of loved me. It's like,
Yeah.
what? Like, I would never marry a dude who kind of is kind of anything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
So it's
You're
just,
not supposed to think that way, right? You're supposed to think this is what's good for the family.
yeah, he's a
This is what I
provider.
need. This is what I
Check.
need to do for to live forever in the celestial kingdom. Because everyone
Mhm.
gets this is the thing about Mormonism, right? Like earlier, I was like, everyone gets baptized, so everyone gets to go to heaven, but not everyone gets. So that is true, right? In some ways, Mormons are very generous because everybody gets to go to Mormon heaven. But also in Mormon heaven, there's super secret special Mormon heaven, and then there's regular Mormon heaven.
Because there's like levels,
There's
right?
levels. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's 3 levels. It's very MLM. Everyone gets to go to level 1. Um, People that are slightly better than average get to go to level 2, but
Okay.
only Mormons get to go to level 3.
Okay.
And really what that is only Mormons who are righteous, meaning they're following all of the rules
Gonna say to the book.
to the
Yeah.
book, right? And so
Mhm.
that's why there's this emphasis on we got to live polygamy is that and there's disagreement in the Mormon world about whether or not polygamy is still one of the rules. But for a while it was,
Got it.
right?
Okay. Okay. I didn't realize it was like affiliated with.
Yeah, if
I
you want
didn't
to
know.
get for a while in Mormonism, if you wanted to become like a god, they don't teach this anymore. It used to be that you got to become a god, you got to get your own planet. It was the shit. But in order to do that, you had to have a bunch of wives to propagate those planets with spirit babies.
Oh.
So that's why you're supposed to be a polygamist, is that if you actually become a god and you get to be like God is now. So current God, in that view, God is a polygamist because he's our polygamous daddy, and which actually kind of makes sense why he is not doesn't seem like he's that invested in what's happening.
Yeah.
It's not that he's not a good dad, it's just that he's got a lot of different houses to go check out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the weird thing too is that like it's an open relationship only on his end.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, and it's very much like, they don't know anything. They're just kind of like sitting at home, whatever. And then it's just like, wait, you have a girlfriend? Wait, you're actually getting engaged? Wait, wait.
And it's also done, and this is something I that makes me really upset just because of the way that it impacts, people that I care about, right? Like family members that I care about, is that what I notice, especially watching season 1, which is the only season I've been able to get myself to watch so far, is that there's just a lot of there's a lot of sadness, right? There's a lot of sadness around like I need more than I'm getting. And yeah, it's a bummer.
It's it's weird because it's a type of greed that that will never be fulfilled.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just like you don't even you're saying you're so blessed, you're saying that everyone's a blessing, you say that you're so happy, but then you're always perpetually looking for more.
Yeah. Yeah, but I
Yeah,
look at your eyes and what I see isn't someone who's actually happy. What I see is someone who believes that they're doing the right thing and so therefore they should feel happy but they don't,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's a really I know what that feels like, right? I know what it feels like to believe that you're doing exactly the right thing and you should be happy, but you're not.
mhm,
It kind of locks you in this sort of shame spiral. And then
yeah,
you just kind of keep doing, you keep trying to earn happiness by doing the right thing. And you don't realize that you don't need to earn happiness.
yeah. It's like this chasing mentality of just like when we get there, but there's no destination.
There's no destination. You're never there.
Mhm.
And while you're
Yeah,
doing that, you're actually not looking at your life right now and asking yourself the hard question, what would make you more happy right now? And
mhm.
for a lot of the wives, and I think a lot of the wives in Mormonism, one of the things that would make them happier would be a husband who cared only about them.
Yeah, like a close, because honestly, I feel like if it was just the original three and no more, no less, we would not have the reality TV show that we do
Oh,
today.
100%.
Yeah, it's just because like in this dichotomy, you are allowed to one, have a mistress and bring her home pregnant and incorporate her into the family. And it's not a discussion and it's not a pre-opt conversation either. Like it's not like you know how like you even
We're
like
doing it
later
because
down the
God,
road.
we're not doing this because I want a mistress. We're doing this because
Mhm.
God has commanded that I take
Right,
this mistress.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trickle down economics, right? Yeah. No, but it's just like it's so interesting because like there's so many times in just later in the season or just like I mean in the entire like trajectory of their being and everything, where the adults conversation and they like have decisions that they make together. And that always seems so healthy when they do that. And then when this is not even a conversation that's broached, then it's all a surprise on the moms at the same time as they're caring for their kids' emotions.
Yeah.
And then everything else is just kind of like everyone's nerves are kind of on fire. And then it's like, sweep it under the rug, you know what I mean? Which is like such a time of the 80s to do because what was mental health, you know? So, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, everything is just like,
Like,
yeah,
what are we
that's
even?
exactly
Yeah.
what we did at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially, in polygamy, right? Like it's not like the social and emotional tools that we have at our disposal are fairly limited, right? It's pray the gay away. That's the one lever that we can pull.
Yeah. Yeah. I know how to fix it. Cha-ching.
Right. Ching,
Yeah.
ching. The
Yeah.
more we do that, right, the more we do that.
Mhm.
Well, I think we're about 90 minutes in.
Yeah. No,
Are there,
honestly,
are there
that's about all I had for episode one. So it was a
thick?
thick one.
That was a great convo.
That was
I
a good one.
I think that everyone's going to be very thrilled with us. I think we are going to now become wildly popular. Um,
I
we're going to
mean,
be so rich and so famous. Um,
what crystal you got going on right now?
oh, this is selenite.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought.
Selenite one. I like to use it to kind of scratch my, like to kind of like massage. Of course,
Yeah. I mean, that's a solid one. I like
this
selenite a lot.
episode sponsored by selenite.
Right.
But everyone, we want to tell you thanks for watching this episode. I guess leave comments with questions or suggestions, but only if they're nice suggestions. You can compliment us in the comments. You can praise us.
So easy to not be a dick.
Right. It's so easy to not be a dick.
So easy.
And if you are a dick, I only have one rule with dicks. And that is if you are a dick, I block you. I'm like, I don't even have time to explain to you why you shouldn't be a dick. I'm just out here swatting them away. I'm like, you came into my face and were a dick, get away from me. So
Nobody got time for it.
yeah, but if you're cool and you want to engage in a conversation, let us know what you think. Also, you should definitely come out if you are a Vegas Sister Wives fan. You should definitely come out to the Comedy Rumble at the Wiseguys and on in the Arts District. So that's on Main Street in Las Vegas. It's Saturday, November 2nd at 9:30. And we're going to do 3 of those shows this month on the 2nd, and then again on the 16th, and then again on the 30th. And I mean, Kay, you've been on this show up in Salt Lake. You helped host the one in Vegas. They're pretty banger.
Listen, I've been to some comedy shows, and especially in Vegas. Like, I get it. There's so much going on. You're hungover. It's been like a whole day. You're overstimulated by everything. The crowds are never going to be that insane. But at the Rumble, they get fucking wild.
At the first Rumble we
Wild.
did in Vegas, this was like a month ago, in the 1st of October. We had the highest energy audience that I've really ever been, and it wasn't even a sold out show. That first one I think we had like 65 people in the room, and it felt like 200.
Yeah,
Like
it was
their energy was off the charts, and all of the comics did fantastic. Vegas has such a cool, really all the scenes. Like this is in Salt Lake, there's a really cool local comedy scene. In Vegas, there's a lot of really, really awesome local comics that you don't get a lot of opportunities to see because there's so much competition for comics for weekend spots at clubs that you only ever see kind of a handful of people who sort of rotate through because it's easy for the clubs. And the talent, especially the talent that I saw, Kate, that you rounded up in Vegas for that first show was stellar. Like the guy that won, Adam Chappell,
yeah, the whole
funny,
lot.
so funny. He'd only been doing stand up like for 6 months, and he came in and he won the whole thing. And my favorite part of that show with him was watching him run out of material halfway through his 10-minute closing at the end.
I think it was a 7 minute mark, and he just goes, uh, uh. And we're all like,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's out. And what I loved about Adam is because the whole vision for, or part of the vision for me behind Comedy Rumble is I want to give working comics who are serious, who are dedicated, a playground, right? I want to give them a place where they can actually go and do the work of comedy, which is getting on stage in front of people and trying stuff and pushing your limits and getting yourself into a place where you don't know if you're going to sink or swim. And Adam did that because I heard him go before the show even started. He was like worrying that he might not have enough material. And so I knew that. I was like, I hope that, I'm just curious about where that goes. And he went
Yeah.
up there and he's like 7 minutes in, he's got 3 minutes left, and he could have just got off, right? He could have just wrapped it. But what I love that he did is he's like, no, I have 10 minutes. I'm gonna fill my time. And there was this moment where he was like, and he's just kind of like sitting there. And it was like
Yeah.
watching a puppy in a swimming pool. And you're like,
Yeah.
what
We're
are you
like,
gonna do? Like, are you gonna
okay.
you got two options. Like you're gonna sink
Yeah.
to the bottom or you're gonna start fucking doing
Yeah.
something and it's gonna work. And he started, it was so cool because the whole audience realized. So everyone kind of realized all together that he's
Yeah.
out of stuff. So he couldn't hide it. Like everyone knew.
Yeah.
And so he just started trying stuff. And so he lost like it's not that he lost the audience, but the laughing stopped, right? They were done laughing. It had kind of died down.
Everyone
The
had
energy was the energy was there, and he had nothing, and he just
the
fucking
little engine who could just
just
kept chugging
worked
along.
it until he found something, and then that got him going, and then he got him up again, and then he ended on a big laugh. And it was really, really cool to see him do that because I mean, for his comedy career, that is going to be like a crucial moment, right? A
Yeah.
moment where he really learned something about what he has and what comedy is, right? He learned that in that moment. And the only way that he learned that is that he had an opportunity to be on stage. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of what the Rumble is about. Is like it's about giving working comics they're dedicated to the craft opportunities to see what they can do, and then the
Yeah.
result of that is a kick-ass show because you get a
Yeah.
bunch of comics to come and do their absolute best, and then you as the audience get to decide, do I like it, do I not like it? So
Well, and the
definitely
most fun thing is to see them sweat over the strategic game that we have to play as comics. Because, like, if you qualify, then what's your three? Then what's your five? What are you burning? What are
right.
you using at what time? It's all a strategic game of poker on our end of where we're going to use and where we're going to burn. And I'm not going to lie, this next week I have two comics who are very vocal to me who are like the idea of getting up on the same stage multiple times during one show scares the living shit out of me. And I'm like,
Yes.
welcome to the Rumble, baby.
Welcome to it. So you guys, definitely if you live in Las Vegas, you should come out to this show. There are only 200. The Wiseguys only seats 200. And it would be a shame if you wanted to go to the show and you showed up and there were no tickets, which has happened in Salt Lake. They sold out 6 times in Salt Lake. So if you want to come, I'm going to link it in the little description. There will be a link. You can buy tickets. I would get them immediately so that you don't miss out. Don't just show up and assume that they're going to be there. They might be gone. It's Saturday, November 2nd, 7:30 p.m. at the Wiseguys in the Arts District in Las Vegas.
We'll see you
So
there.
we'll see you there. Okay. I'm glad that we finally did this. We're going to be just so famous from talking about sister wives that we'll eventually be able to lead very successful comedy careers, and we will do absurd and stupid things with all of our money.
Listen, the insane amount of research that I get to do. You have no idea. This is just taking my daily already 9 to 5 and now giving it purpose. I'm so happy to
I
be here. Thank you so
I
much.
love this. We are perfectly paired. Thanks, thanks, guys, and everyone. I think we'll probably try to do this like once a week for a while. We'll see how it goes, but we'll be back with another episode soon. I guess we need to figure out what we're going to call this. So maybe in the comments, suggestions for what the name of this podcast should be, because right now Kay Banks and the Fresh King Benjamin talk about sister wives, which is a
Fair, the Fairly Odd
very,
Couple.
very
Mm,
shitty, very shitty title.
yeah.
Anyway,
The Mormon with no wife. Talking to some other girl.
I love it. Okay, bye everybody.